worst thing your sibling did that you secretly understood? Hotel security called my parents at 2 in the morning to say I was burning something in the parking lot. When they arrived, I was standing over the charred remains of my sister's wedding dress with an empty can of lighter fluid in my hand. Rebecca showed up in her bathrobe, and the sound she made wasn't even human. That dress cost $8,000. It was vintage from 1924, and her wedding was in 11 hours. I stood there with soot on my hands saying the same thing over and over. I had to. Rebecca screamed that I was sick, that I'd ruined everything. My parents stared at me like I was broken, and the security guard dialed the police. Nobody asked why. They assumed my anxiety disorder was finally making me dangerous, exactly like her fiancé Derek had been warning them. An hour later, they drove me home in silence and sent me to my room while Derek told them downstairs that I needed to be institutionalized. I could hear every word. She's obsessed. She can't handle Rebecca being happy. This is what happens when you ignore the warning signs. My sister hadn't spoken to me in months because he had been cutting me off from her. At 6 a.m., I went to the attic before anyone could stop me. I pulled out the old trunk and started laying everything on the floor. The diary, the death certificates, the photos. My mom found me there surrounded by papers, and something about my face made her call everyone downstairs. I spread the death certificates across the coffee table. Great-grandmother Charlotte, married 1949, dead 11 months later, heart failure at 23. Great-aunt Louise, married 1972, dead 13 months later, fell down the stairs. Second cousin Helen, married 1998, dead 9 months later, car accident. Then I showed them the photos. All 4 women wearing the same dress in their weddings, 3 of them even wearing it in their caskets. Then I opened the diary that belonged to my great-great-grandmother Evelyn, married in 1924. I read the final entry out loud. He will kill me tomorrow, so I have sewn my protection into my wedding dress. My hair, my blood, my words. If I cannot live, neither will his legacy. Every woman who wears this dress will join me. Derek stood up fast and his chair fell over. This is insane. But his voice shook and my dad noticed. I pulled out my phone and showed them pictures I'd taken 2 days earlier when I snuck into the bridal suite. The dress lining torn open, dark hair woven into the fabric, rusty brown stains that could only be blood. Rebecca stared at the photos and looked at Derek. Why would Maya make this up? His face went red. Because she's sick, she's jealous, she needs help. But Rebecca was already walking to the door. She said she wanted to check something at his apartment. Derek tried to stop her, but my dad blocked him. 40 minutes later, she came back holding journals she'd found hidden in Derek's closet. She dropped them on the table and they fell open to pages covered in his handwriting. Notes about Evelyn, about the curse, about the death pattern. He'd literally researched our family tree and mapped out every woman who'd worn the dress. He knew everything before he proposed. My mom read from one journal out loud. If I can successfully complete the ritual with the cursed object, the power transfers to me. My dad called the police immediately. When the officers arrived, one recognized Derek's name and made a call. Then he told us Derek had a previous wife who married him in 2016 and died in her sleep in February 2018, exactly 11 months later. They'd investigated but couldn't prove anything, but that now they would reopen the case. A few days later, they got a warrant for Derek's storage unit and found more journals plus a diary from his first wife. She'd written about nightmares, about not being able to breathe, about Derek asking her to wear a vintage dress for anniversary photos, the same dress. She wore it once and died 3 weeks later. That evening, the detective told us Derek believed the curse was real and that killing someone wearing it would give him power. He'd been planning Rebecca's accident for their first anniversary. They arrested him for murder of his first wife and stalking charges for Rebecca. Rebecca came to my room that night and hugged me hard. She kept saying, "I'm sorry, I should have listened." I told her about the nightmares I'd been having for 6 weeks. Seeing her funeral dated 13 months after her wedding. We cried together. That night, I woke up in a sweat at 2 a.m. with a woman standing in the corner wearing a 1920s wedding dress. She looked exactly like Evelyn from the photos. She stared at me and nodded once. Her mouth moved. "Thank you for finishing it." Then she disappeared into smoke.